And welcome back. How did you do? If you coded it out entirely, amazing job, that's phenomenal. But if you haven't, don't worry at all. We're just learning through this entire course, and it's highly unlikely that you'll be able to recreate the entire page right away. That's why we're going to do it together right now. And as I've told you, the whole goal of this was not for you to create it, the goal was for you to get you thinking. And that way, what I'll be teaching you right now is going to make so much more sense. So let's get it started. First, we're going to import a few things. We're going to import use state from React, as well as a few things from Material UI. So we can import a box. We're going to need a button, as well as the circular progress for the loading. We're going to need a grid. And then finally, we're going to need a typography from MUI Material. Below that, we're going to import something known as use history. This is a new thing that we're learning about. And then also the already mentioned use params. This is coming from react-router-dom. Finally, we're going to import arrow back icon, and that's going to be coming from add MUI icons material. Now that we have all of this, we of course have to figure out on which URL are we, or more importantly, what is the ID of the actor we want to search for. So to do that, we can simply get the ID by saying const ID is equal to use params. And we can also display that ID right next to our actor. There we go. It's loading. I'm gonna reload the page. And there we go. Actor 10,859. Now that we have the actor's ID, we need to make a new Redux Toolkit query to get the actor's information. So let's go to our TMDB services right here. Right here below, we're gonna create a new endpoint, which is going to be called get actors details. That's going to be the same thing, builder.query. We pass in an object, and then we have a query. In there, we're gonna accept just the ID this time. Make sure to do it like this. And we want to point to, and that's going to be person /ID API underscore key is equal to TMDB API key. This is it. This is the shortest endpoint we've had so far. Now, if you had trouble finding it on the TMDB API docs, let me show you where it is. Once you visit the TMDB documentation page, let's try to search for actor. That was going to be my first goal, but unfortunately, nothing was found. So let me quickly browse through these categories. We have account, authentication, changes, companies, discover, find, keywords, movies, people. Yep, that's going to be it. So in here, you can see /person and then the person ID, and that's going to give us all the information about a specific person. Great. Now that we have this, you already know the drill. Use get actors details. And now we can use that inside of the actors. So let's import. That's going to be use get actors details. And that's going to be coming from //services and TMDB. Finally, we can call that as a hook right here. So we can say const data is fetching. We can also have an error, and that is equal to use get actors details. And we simply have to pass in the ID that we're getting from the params. This data object is going to contain the entire information about our specific user. Considering that we also have this is fetching and the error here, let's first implement the error handling and the loading states. And I think we can even just copy them. So let's just search for circular progress. I went to our second tab right here, which is the search, Control-Shift-F, and let's go to our movies. Right here, we have our is fetching, and we also have an error. So let's simply copy this is fetching thing, and let's paste it here. Basically, we just say is fetching, then we show a box, and a circular progress. In this case, we can increase the size to 8 rem. Finally, if we have an error, we can simply copy this and say if there is an error, we can show the box. That box is going to have display flex, justify content center, but it's also going to have align items center. And in that case, we simply want to show a button. And that button is going to have a start icon, which is going to be equal to arrow back, like this. And on click, we can open a callback function and simply call history dot go back as a function. This history object is undefined, so let's simply use it. We have the use history hook, so we can simply say const history is equal to use history. Again, if you're not sure why this is how it is, simply visit the React Router DOM docs and then search for use history. It's just one line, which you can use as a hook, and then you get this option, go back. Finally, our button color is going to be set to primary, and inside of the button, we can simply say something like go back. Great. Now we have the is fetching, we also have the error, and now is the time that we implement the actual actor page. It's going to be a lot simpler than the actual movie information page, so let's start with it right now. First things first, we're going to have a React fragment, like this. Inside of that React fragment, we're going to have a grid. That grid is going to be of a type container, and it's going to have spacing set to 3. Inside of that grid, we're going to have one more grid, and this grid is going to be of a type item. On large devices, it's going to take 5 spaces, and on extra large devices, it's going to take 4 spaces. Inside of there, we simply want to show an image. So we can say image right here. That image is going to have a class name equal to classes.image. It's also going to have the source, and our source is going to be equal to a template string, and it's going to be the similar thing we've already had, https://image.tmdb.org/t/p/w780 and then data $profile_path. And then every image has to have an alt tag, so here we can just say data.name. Of course, we haven't yet imported the classes, so let's do that right now. Inside of the actors, I'm going to show our classes. That's going to be styles.js. We can copy the main styles, as we always do. And we can start already by implementing the classes for our image. That's going to be the only class we're going to have. Image is going to be set to max width of 90%. Then we're going to have the border radius set to 20 pixels. We're also going to have the object fit to be equal to cover. And finally, the box shadow, which is going to be equal to 0.5 em, 0.5 em, and then 1 em. We need to add a comma here, save it, go back to actors, and just import it right here at the top by saying import use styles from /styles, and then we use it right here as a hook. Const classes is equal to use styles. Great. Now if we save that, we should be able to see our image right here. Instead of that, we get an error saying object is not a function. So it says that we're trying to access the data, is fetching in the error, but this use get actors details is not returning it for us. So let's see what's happening. We're going to go into use get actors details. Get actors details, the name is correct, but we're missing one thing, and that is the query. So by convention, this has to start with use and end with query. Now we can copy that, go back into actors, and we can paste that use get actors query. That was my bad. If we save that, and reload the page. Now we can see the actor's image. Great. Below this inner grid, we're going to have one more grid. This grid is going to be of a type item. It's going to take 7 spaces out of 12 on large devices, and on extra large devices, it's going to take 8. We can also give it some inline styles just for variety, and we can say display is going to be set to flex, justify, content is going to be set to center, and flex direction is going to be set to column. Of course, you could have done this in the classes object, but just for variety, I've put it here right now. Inside of that grid, we're going to have a few typographies. Our first typography is going to have a variant equal to H2, and it's going to have a gutter bottom. So we can say gutter bottom, and inside of there, we can simply display the name. That's going to be data dot name. If we save that, we get Ryan Reynolds. Great. Now below that typography, we're going to have one more, and we can basically copy and paste it. So let's take this typography, paste it below. This one is going to be of a variant H5, and in there we can show the birthday of our actor. So we can say here, born, colon, and then we can form a new date. So we can say new date, and we're going to pass in date birthday without capitalized D, and then just to date string. In here, we shouldn't have date. That's going to be data.birthday. If we save that, we're going to get born Saturday, October 23rd, 1976. And finally, the third typography is going to be of a variant equal to body2. That's going to be a bit of a smaller text. It's also going to have a line, which is equal to justify. And finally, it's going to be a paragraph. Great. Inside of there, we can show the author's biography. So right here, we're going to say data dot biography. Or if there isn't a biography, we can say or sorry, no biography yet. ... Great. If we save that, you can see we now get the entire biography right here. It does seem a bit small, so I'm going to set it to body 1. There we go. That looks just a bit better. Now we have the main and most important information. Let's add 2 different buttons. That's going to be done straight below this typography inside of a box. Our box is going to have a margin top set to rem. It's also going to have a display equal to flex. And finally, it's going to have a justify content, which is going to be set to space around. Inside of that box, we're going to have 2 different buttons. The first button is going to have a variant equal to contained. The color is going to be set to primary. The target is going to be set to underscore blank. And finally, we have to add the href. Href is going to be a template string like this, and it's going to point to https://www.imdb.com/data?imdb_id. This is going to form the link to lead us to this actor's IMDb page. Let's reload the page, and looks like we have an error. Interesting, cannot read properties of dark. How did this occur right now? Let's check out what we've done. I'm going to try to comment out the last portion of the code I wrote, and now it works. If I uncomment it, we get an error. This is really interesting. I might have a typo. Let's take a look at this. We have a box. These properties seem all right. We have a button, variant contained, and the color could be the key here. I mistyped primary. Let's save it. And there is our button. Of course, inside of our button, we need to type something in, and we're simply going to say IMDb. Great. Finally, we're going to add one more button next to it. This button is going to have a start icon, which is going to be set to arrow back like this. It's also going to have an on click, which is simply going to say a callback function and then history dot go back. And also the color is going to be set to primary. So we can say color is primary. This is going to be it for this button. We can simply say back inside of it. There we go. This is our back button. And if I click IMDb, we can see Ryan Reynolds IMDb page. So that works as well. Now the last part is to show the movies that this actor starred in. And the situation is going to be similar with what we've had in the movie information. We can easily just render the movie list, but we do have to get the actual movies. In this case, we were fetching recommendations, but now we need to fetch the movies that this actor starred in. So that's going to be in the TMDB. Inside of here, just below, we can say get movies by actor ID. That's going to be equal to builder.query. And inside of there, we can create a new query. That's going to be callback function. We want to accept an ID and also a page here. And we need to return a template string that's going to be /discover /movie with _cast. And then that's going to be equal to ID. Finally, we want to say end page is going to be equal to page. And we need to say API_key is equal to TMDB API key. Of course, we have to put a $sign here. And don't forget these end signs before the page and the API key. This is our get movies by actor ID endpoint. And we can use it right here by saying use get movies by actor ID query. Now we can copy that, go back to actors, and at the top, we can import it from our services. Now we can call it like any other TMDB hook by saying const data is equal to use get movies by actor ID query. We have to pass two things into it. One thing is the page. So for now, I'm going to set the page to be equal to just a constant of 1. And the other thing is the ID. So we can simply form an object saying ID and page. Of course, the data is not going to be the data. We can rename it to be something like movies. And with that, we're fetching all the movies that this actor starred in. And just below the final grid, we're going to create a box. This box is going to have a margin set to 2 rem on top and bottom and 0 on left and right. Inside of there, we're going to show our typography. That typography is going to be of a variant is equal to h2 and it's going to have a gutter bottom. It's also going to have the align equal to center. Inside of there, we can simply say movies. Let's save this, see if it works. Reload the page, and there we go, movies. Finally, we're gonna use the same old movie list component. So right inside of here, we can say import movie list from ... And finally, we can add one check and say, if there are movies, so movies and end, then render the self-closing movie list component. Of course, we want to pass the movies to it, which is going to be movies is equal to movies, and the number of movies is going to be equal to 12. Let's go ahead and display it right now. And there we go. We get 12 different movies that Ryan Reynolds starred in. Phenomenal. This is going to be it for the actors page. The last thing we can do is check it out on mobile. And this is looking great. We can see all the movies. It seems like a native mobile application. And if we're gonna be honest, we haven't been writing a lot of styles. Material UI helped us with making this mobile view so good. Great. So our actors movie page is done. There is one small detail that we haven't still implemented, which is the pagination for the movies. But if you think about it, we don't even have that here yet. We're just showing first 20 movies. So now might be a good time to implement movie pagination.